In Honkai style, Lightcones are your general statistics. Mostly, they offer just pure stats, and that's about it. However, there are some niche Lightcones which offer something more than just pure stats, and that is some kind of effect, which can potentially be something you might consider when building a team, because those units, because of the Lightcone, might be somewhat usable and worth if you don't have the optimal unit that you would like to have. In this video we will define what makes Lightcone unique and interesting. Then we will divide all the Lightcones into two major categories and what separates them. And then I will give you 6 examples of Lightcones from my own head that could be used in this very fashion and could be interesting food for thought when building a team. Honkai Star Rail has a lot of Lightcones, 122 in total in fact. So what separates interesting Lightcone from boring one? Boring Lightcone just gives stats. Even though stats are very important on Lightcones, as it gives maybe largest chunk of damage increase, which is necessary in this age when power creep is visible more than in any other game. But the effects gives Lightcones a niche, which otherwise would make them underwhelming. This effect can be utility, can be something that makes you consider certain units to put on the team. Example would be Trend of the Universal Market, which can apply dirt and is very good addition for preservation units in Acheron or Dr. Ratio teams. We do not have that many of such Lightcones, although there are a couple other examples, such as Resolution, Dance Dance and Quid Pro Quo, which fall into this category as well. These Lightcones are default option for their separate roles, because there aren't any other Lightcones which could compete with them. They do not offer stats but effects. Defense Shred from Resolution is incredibly powerful, and for Nihility unit that can't shred defense under normal circumstances, this makes large difference. And it is also quite a significant boost even if you do have unit which can shred defense, such as Payload. Dance Dance and Quid Pro Quo are, for their separate paths, just default options, because they do not have any other free-to-play choice that is as good as these two. All others are just numbers with condition or used for archetype you might not play, such as Memories of the Past and What is Real. Now that we define what makes Lightcone unique, let's divide Lightcones into two major categories. And first we have signature Lightcones. These Lightcones are generally much more powerful, and alongside that they are much harder to obtain due to requirement of spending your tickets to even get them on their separate banners. They feature 5-star character, they have banner alongside, which also means that they are tailored towards that set character. Another common thing between them is that they have stat increase alongside effect. This effect usually has condition, which works best for that character. Example could be Himeko. Her Lightcone has maximum potential with 5 enemies and gives according stats equal to the amounts of the enemies. On the other hand, when that condition isn't met, this Lightcone underperforms, and Himeko under normal circumstances also underperforms, and she is much better when doing something AoE, like Pure Fiction. Another example could be any break character whose Lightcone has break conditions, which for all the break units we can only exclude Rappa because she does not have these conditions. As proper example, I will use Firefly and her Lightcone. This Lightcone gives user break damage with addition to give more stats when dealing break damage. This limits some Lightcones for just one archetypes. In this case it is break, as non-break units would have hard time filling the conditions and would barely benefit from it. On the other hand, we have Lightcones which do not have such tight condition. Example could be Bronya's Lightcone. Her only condition is to use its skill and ultimate on allies, which makes this usable on other characters such as Sparkle or Sunday. Then we have what I would call universal Lightcones. These are much easier to obtain as they range from 3-star rarity to 5-star rarity. They can be obtained through other means than just warping, such as playing the actual game. There is couple 3-star Lightcones that can be obtained through exploring, but much larger quantity of 4 stars, which also can be obtained through endgame shop. Then we have all 5-star Lightcones, which can be obtained just through playing the game, and this time it is through simulated and divergent universe, where you can just get them from the shop. You cannot get a single one of these from warping. These Lightcones have a significant range between its strength, although there are some that have a niche, like Trend of the Universal Market. Now we are entering the second part of this video. In this part we will go over 6 Lightcones I came up with, which can be potentially food for thought when making a team or when trying to defeat the enemies you needed. Some of these could be potentially so strong that a whole new character can be made out of them, but we will talk about them in form of Lightcones instead. And we will start with Nihility path. For every instance of dot damage happening on enemy target, the wearer heals for 5% of its damage to all allies. This is the wet dream of every dot enjoyer. I'm not even sure if something is more requested than this for dot archetype. This archetype has been abandoned by Hoyo ever since Black Swan got released. This Lightcone could potentially allow to go without sustain, depending on how much it would heal. I would assume 5% to be good spot, as we have also Blessing in Simulated and Divergent Universe, which allows the same thing just with much lesser percentile, and that is 1 and 1.5% when upgraded. But in those universes, there the damage is significantly higher. My guess would be that as Lightcone itself, this would go crazy. For that reason, I would rather incline to have this built into character than have this as Lightcone, just because of how ridiculously OP this could be. Let's talk about Abundance path now. Whenever wearer restores HP to ally over their full health, then 50% of that amount will be converted into shield. Honkai Star Rail does not reward for overhealing, which in this case could work well. This could allow Abundance characters to shield their teammates and defend them from one-shots, which in some ways could be considered main identity of preservation units, due to their tanking capabilities. Examples would be Fushuan and Aventuring. But I believe for Abundance units, weaker shield I would say still could work. That's why I believe 50% of the overhealed amount could fit well. Abundance units normally do not have this option. The only exception is Luocha with his second Eidolon, which allows the target whose health is over 50% when Luocha's skill is triggered to grant them shield, which scales off of his attack. Although in my view giving this option free to use for any healer could be ridiculous and could lead in process into much parasitic power creep in the endgame, and would then be necessary to run if you want to survive the ridiculous damage done. Next on our list is Harmony. If the wearer has at least 180 speed during combat, then every basic attack done by the wearer will give 1 more skill point. Harmony units tend to give some ridiculous boosts, which require them to be very quick and do as many of them as possible. This makes some of them often skill point negative. However, this Lightcone manages to fix its main issue, while at the same time benefit the whole team. Throughout the 2 years of Honkai Star Rail, we saw some very skill point inefficient units. Examples could be Danhang Inhibitor Lune. This could help him as he needs a shit ton of skill points to work. But the question is, if this is even worth it. Danhang Inhibitor Lune nowadays isn't as good, and each new main DPS feels like it is more efficient than the previous one. So at the end of the day, this Lightcone might be overkill due to speed requirement, and that some Harmony units just want to skill every single time without using any normal attacks. Now let's cross another path. This time it will be the path of Erudition, which reads: Wearer allows allies to store their energy if it would overflow. Once allies use ultimate ability, then energy equal to the banked amount will be returned. Bank amount is counted for every ally separately. Erudition, harmony, and abundance are 3 paths that are generally great at generating energy. So technically any of these 3 could work for this kind of Lightcone. This effect is very powerful for one major reason, and that is option to save your ultimate so you could use them when necessary. When you need to use big damage to kill something as soon as possible. At the same time, this would punish those who use ultimates immediately, including autoplay. In that way, it creates at least some kind of complexity and different option when to build. If we would take this as an example for Erudition Lightcone, then the question is, do you want to have another potentially underwhelming unit that doesn't do much so you could use this as big burst window, or would you rather have team which does not rely on the big boom and is just consistent? This question disappears if the Lightcone is for abundance and harmony units, because for them it might be much stronger and maybe the default choice then. But what do y'all think? Let me know in the comments down below. Then we have Hunt Lightcone. If wearer does at least one instance of follow-up damage, then character positioned on the 4th spot will be more likely to be targeted. Follow-up units are majorly single target, with the largest amount of them being followers of the path of the hunt. These units are usually glass cannons and rely on their incredible damage so they don't get hit at all. If they get hit, then they might be one-shotted. Aventuring is one of the reasons follow-up have great survivability, and this Lightcone would allow to redirect threat done by another hunt unit onto Aventuring himself, and thus making sure he tanks more and does more damage then, and thus has more shield in the process. While this increases the survivability, it also sacrifices the damage that the second follow-up unit might do. But is that worth it to consider? And last on our list is Distraction, which reads: allows wearer to trigger exo toughness on any enemy who got weakness broken by the wearer. Super break has been major thing alongside follow-up during 2-point updates. Distraction has the most amount of units that can benefit from super break, although just Firefly is really good, although Sushang and Shui are also decent options. This Lightcone can make it even better. Exo toughness has been seen on 2 occasions. First was one of the rules for Memory of Curse, and second one is Fugyu. This Lightcone might help trigger exo toughness without relying on any rules for endgame or having Fugyu at all. At the end of the day, it might be a good question to ask: is it worth to sacrifice stats to do some bonus damage? I intentionally skipped Preservation and Remembrance paths. Remembrance because we have like 5 Lightcones, so it wouldn't make any sense to make one of them because there isn't too much we could go from. And Preservation because we already have Trend of the Universal Market, and that Lightcone is already amazing, and I used it as the blueprint to how others should look like. At the end of the day, there is so much more options to go from, and I decided to just go with these 6. But what do you think? Do you think you could think of something much better? I would like to hear what you think about my ideas and about your own ideas in the comments down below. And that is everything. Thank you for your time, and if you like this type of content, let me know by subscribing to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.